I was sitting there today thinking about all of this stuff that I got going on. And then I came to the realization, if I just get about $25, $30 worth of bills, I can actually make a visual representation of what I mean by the three pools of money. And what am I calling the three pools of money? And so here's a visual representation of what I am doing. And this whole representation, each dollar represents 10 grand. All right, and this is effectively more or less like within plus or minus 7% of my within plus or minus 7% of what my balance sheet is more or less effectively the reason that I did it like this was because I believe this is about more or less what I reasonably anticipate my balance sheet will look like here within 3 or 4 months. This is what my balance sheet will look like within 3 or 4 months. And I did it like this just to make the numbers, within 3 or 4 months, my balance sheet will look like this. And this also makes the numbers very easy. I don't have to worry about it like, pulling out the quarters, right? I don't have to worry about pulling out quarters. I don't have to worry about things like folding bills in half to represent, 5,000 bucks. And, effectively, more or less, and just the big idea of this is to get an idea of what I got going on. And more or less, if I'm talking about $100,000, it doesn't matter, okay? More or less, this is just to get an idea of the proportions. All right, this is to get an idea of what I got going on in terms of proportions, okay? And so it doesn't matter if each dollar represents $5,000. It doesn't matter if each dollar represents $10,000. It doesn't matter if each dollar represents $100,000, $1 million. This is effectively how I have mentally, this is how I mentally keep track of what I got going on in terms of the money. And I am going to show it to you, okay? So all of the bills that are facing upwards are my money. All right, and all of the bills that are upside down are the bank's money. All right, and so here this is the first pool of money. This is the money that I put in the deal. So this $10 bill represents $100,000. So I put $100,000 in the deal. This money right here. This right here represents. This is the first pool of money. And this $10 bill represents 100 grand. When I have $100,000 in the deal, I go to the bank and I take a loan for 80 grand. With this money, I buy cattle, okay? So I buy $180,000 worth of cattle. More or less, I buy about 130 cattle, okay? And if I buy 130 cattle with 180 grand, I'm effectively, what I am talking about is buying number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame steers, okay? If they were heifers, they would be a little bit cheaper. But just to keep everything, just to compare apples to apples, just to use an apples to apples, just to use an apples to apples, correlation, I am going to say, if I pay $1,400 for a calf that's about 250 pounds, I'm effectively buying a number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame bull or steer. Okay, if I was buying heifers, they'd be cheaper and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, and so we're going to use the steers for this example. So if I buy a bunch of 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame steers, and effectively the market goes sideways, when I sell them, I will be selling them for about after commissions and everything about $2,650. Okay, I used the $2,650 as a reasonable estimate for how much money I will bring home if I sell these animals every 7 months and I bring them home at 250 pounds. Okay, and so if I have to raise the animals for an extra month, it's not really going to throw the numbers off, very much at all. It's going to throw the numbers off by maybe 8%. It's not that big of a deal, okay? But more or less, this is what I'm talking about, okay? If I go and I buy, and I have $100,000 worth of money in the deal, and I go to the bank and I take a loan for 80 grand, that's 180 grand. And if I take this 180 grand and I buy a bunch of number 1 to 1.5 type medium large frame bulls and steers at 200 to 250 pounds, about 2.25, something like that, then I'll effectively be able to buy about 130 of them. Okay, if I have 130 cattle and I am selling them every month for 7 months, I would be selling an average of 18 animals at a time. So that's the first pool of money. All right, this is the first pool of money. That's my money in the deal. That 100 grand is my money in the deal. And I went to the bank and I took a loan for 80 grand. And I bought more cattle with that money. This 180 grand is a bunch of cattle, okay? And when I raise the value of these cattle, that produces this pool of money. And this is the second pool of money. This pool of money is the money that I have made, but I have not paid myself. All right, this is the positive equity in the herd. About 50 grand. It's about 47,800. It's about $48,000, okay? But I just used 50 grand as a whatever for it, okay? Just to make it an even number. It's about 48 grand, but if I sell the animals at 850, then it'll be about 50 grand. So more or less about 50 grand, okay? So I have this money that I have made. I made this money by investing this money and making the value of the asset go up. I made this money by doing that. But this money I have not paid myself yet. All right? So that's about 50 grand. And I take a loan, and I'll go more into this a little bit later. And this is the third pool of money. The third pool of money is the amount of money that I make, like the check that I hold in my hand. So when I sell the 18 animals, I would reasonably anticipate that I make about, I was saying about $48,000, $48,000. But let's just say I use $7,000 or $8,000 a month to just run my business. All right, I pay out the dividends, and maybe I go and whatever. I pay myself an extra $1,000 or $2,000 or whatever. Whatever it may be. I just said, okay, let's just think about it like I used $7,000 or $8,000 or whatever. I may have lost, one or two cattle that month, and I may have to replace them, and that would be, whatever. And for whatever reason, I just, this money right here should be about $48,000. It should also be a $5 bill, but I put $4 here. Because the $8,000, the $10,000, I pay out the dividend, right? I pay out the dividend, and then I have, this is the, and something may have happened along the way, and I need to buy a load of grain, and I need to buy 2 loads of fertilizer, and I paid for the herbicide drone, and whatever, whatever else it may be. All right, so I took it out of there. And I estimated it to be about 10 grand. This pile of money right here should be about the same as this. But I took $1 out of it, okay? And that dollar represents 10 grand. And so this is the money that I'm holding in my hand, the check that I have in my hand, about 40 grand, okay? So that's the check that I have in my hand. And this is a very easy way to look at it. So I have my money in the deal. That's pool number 1. Pool number 2 over here is the money that I've made by appreciating the value of the assets. By investing this money, I was able to make this money, but I have not paid myself this money yet. On a monthly basis, I am paying myself this money. And this is so this is how much leverage I have, right? The upside down bills are the leverage that I have. And when you take a look at this, I have 20% positive equity, right? I have 20% positive equity. And I will go a little bit more into that. I'll give you an easier way of seeing this in a little bit once I've gone through the entire description of the 3 pools of money. I will give you an easier way to see what I'm doing. And what do I mean by all this? And so here are the 3 pools of money. And so that's the check that I have in my hand. And this would be like if I were to take a snapshot of the money at the end of the month. And this is when I would utilize capital. Okay, this is when I utilize capital. And when I utilize capital, this money, right? I've always said that this money here, as long as I reinvest it back into my business, I effectively get to keep all of it. And all of the bank's money, as long as I invest the money into an equitable asset at its equitable evaluation, the cattle are worth the money. All right. So the cattle and the money, it may not be cash, but the cattle are worth money. So this money here, as long as I reinvest the money back into my business, I more or less get to keep all of it. All right. I get to keep all of it. That's, as long as I take the money and I reinvest all of the money back into my business, I get to keep all of it. And if I take that money and I purchase a bunch of cattle at their equitable evaluations, I buy a bunch of equitable cattle at their equitable evaluations, commodity type cattle, then the cattle are worth just as much as the money, okay, more or less. So this money here, what I would do with the money is invested, right? And if I invest this money would go into this pool over here, right? This money would go over here. All right. So that's what it would look like when the money's invested. And I don't want to get, people confused. So so this money, I would use this money and invest it. And when this money gets invested, this money now goes over here, right? This is the money that I have in the deal. And this is how much leverage the bank has given me. And when I do this, right, I'm buying a bunch of cattle. That's what I'm doing right now. Like when I move that money over, that's a sign that I am buying a bunch of cattle. I'm taking this $80,000 and I'm buying cattle with it. Okay, I'm taking this 80 grand and I'm buying cattle with it. And when I do that, now that becomes the money that I've put in the deal, right? So this money has moved over here. Now, when this money has moved over here, this pool of money over here now becomes larger. So what does this symbolize? This symbolizes my herd getting bigger. Right? This number here, this pool of money gets bigger. And when this pool of money gets bigger, right? Maybe now I make this over here, right? And if I had another $5, I don't got another $5 bill. Oh, but here I'll fold a $10 bill in half, and this will symbolize $5. I'll fold a $10 bill in half, so that will symbolize $5, and that will symbolize me taking a loan for 50 grand. So now you get to take a look at, I've made the money, right? And when I moved the money over here, that's me investing the money. This is me. When the money is moving over here, that's me going to the sale barn and buying $80,000 worth of cattle, okay? That's me going to the sale barn and buying $80,000 worth of cattle. Me adding the $2, the 20 grand over here. This symbolizes my herd getting bigger. Even though the rest of my animals, let's just say, theoretically the animals did not get any bigger. And I instantaneously was able to go and buy, $80,000 worth more of cattle. This 20 grand symbolizes my herd getting bigger. Getting bigger because I reinvested the money. So this is the second pool of money. This is so this would symbolize my herd getting bigger, okay? And when I do this, and I've been speaking about this whole thing about up until now, this pool of money, I did not leverage against it. Okay, so let's go back to the original herd. Okay, so let's go back to the original herd. So this is the original herd, right? So let's move this back over. So this is the original herd. Okay, this is we went right back to the original herd, okay? So this is the original 3 pools of money, right? This is the money that I make on a monthly basis. This is the money that I have invested, and this is the positive equity in the herd that I have not paid myself yet, okay? And when I take this money and I move that money over here, that symbolizes me buying more cattle, okay? That symbolizes me buying more cattle. And when I buy more cattle, the money in the herd goes up, all right? The money in the herd, it goes up. And so the unrealized gain, it goes up. This right here, this number goes, this amount of money goes up. And so you can see that as the money circulates around, think about it like a circle, like a circulation. As that money circulates around, the money in each pool, the money in each pile gets larger. So that's the most realistic way for, that's the most simplistic way for me to put it. And what I mean by my equity in the deal, and, and taking loans from the bank. When I take the loans from the bank, the big idea when I take a loan from the bank is not that I take the money and then I go YOLO, live my dream, go do something, moronic. That's not the point. The point of me taking a loan from the bank is for me to go and purchase more equitable assets at their equitable evaluations. I get a tax benefit when I do that, and the whole idea for me of doing this is to utilize my equity, right? Why wouldn't I use the money that I have in the deal? Why wouldn't I use that, right? I think about my money in the deal as a savings account, and here is why. So when I go to the bank, I take a loan against my money. And the reason that I do this is so that I can utilize, I don't consider the capital to be spent until I have leveraged against it, because the capital, the money's still there. And here's a very good representation of this. So let's say that I decided that I just wanted my money. I didn't want to be in the cattle business anymore. I wanted my money. I wanted the money. I just wanted to sit on money. That's what I want to do. I want to sit on money. I don't want to be in the cattle business anymore. I just want to sit on money. Well, if I take the money that the bank lent me and I sell the cattle, then this money here, this money is now my money. And I sold the cattle that the bank lent me money for, and I paid the bank back. So this is how much money I would have left over. That's my money in the deal. That's my money in the deal. Okay? So that's what I mean by that's my money in the deal. And now you can also get, imagine that this money's not here. So now you can see why I leverage against my money. I leverage against, I think about this as a savings account. I see it as a savings account, okay? And so that's why I leverage against my money. And when I leverage against my money, I leverage like this. And if you take a look at why I leverage like this, when you add it all up, I still have 20%. I still have $20,000 here positive, and I still have $10,000 here positive. And the total sum of money that is, I still have 20,000, I still have 10,000 here, and I still have 20,000. And when you take a look at the total sum of money that is invested, that $30,000 as of right now is 20% positive equity, and that 20% positive equity is the safety margin. I consider that to be my safety margin, all right? And so this right here, this is a very easy way to look at it. I was thinking about this, I was like, this is a very good way of looking at it. And so effectively, the way that the money circulates is, imagine that this money goes over here. So this is the check in my hand. I take the check in my hand, I leverage against it, and I reinvest all of the capital. When I reinvest all of the capital, that money that I've invested now becomes my money. So this money here becomes one with this pool of money over here. So this pool of money goes over here. So this is now pool number 1 as well. And when this is one pool, the size of the herd will have increased. And that will increase the size of this pool. And if the size of this pool gets bigger, and this is and I'll talk about this now. It's a good time to talk about it. Up until now, I have not leveraged against this money. Up until now, this pool of money, I knew it was there. I understood it was there, but I did not leverage against it. Just because, think about this like if I only had 10 animals. Instead of 100 animals, let's think about it like 10 animals. This pool of money would not be very large. Right? This pool of money would not be very large. It may be, this may be making whatever, maybe making whatever. 5, 6, 7 grand, whatever it may be. I had 10 animals worth of money in the deal. And, maybe I took a loan for another 10 more, right? And, it's a fraction, right? It's very, very, this pool of money, it's whatever, it may be whatever, when I was running, when I had 10 animals worth of money in the deal, I also wasn't putting on 3 pounds a day. My results weren't this good. I have substantially better results now than I did a year or even 2 years or even a year ago. My results are very good. I'm effectively almost borderline like doing better than a commercial type results. All right, I'm doing extremely well for myself. The whole thing about me having been able to do this in the backyard by myself is borderline like what in the world. As far as I know, I'm really the only person that even does it. All right, I don't know anybody else that's more or less even managed to even do 10%. Most people cannot even make it doesn't even matter. I mean, it's not even I'm not even it's on a different scale now. It doesn't even matter what what industry or what job or whatever we talk about. Most people can't even look at this right here, right? This is about when you take a look at this, we're effectively talking about, about me making about $80,000 a month, right? Because I have $40,000 that I made up there. I still got 20,000 over here. I still got 10,000 over here. That's 70 grand right there, right? And and all of this, I would be leveraging against at least 80% of this. So let's this right here is a representation of me making like $60,000 a month net positive. All right, that's effectively what this diagram is illustrating. Me making about $60,000 a month net positive. And how long do I think it'll realistically take for me to get to this point? Maybe 3 or 4 months. All right, but this is a very easy way of looking at it. That pool of money, that's the check in my hand, and I leverage against that. When I do that, I go and I buy more cattle, and I buy these cattle at their equitable evaluations. I buy commodity type cattle at their equitable evaluations, and when I do that, this pool of money gets moved over here. When this pool of money gets moved over here, then the size of my herd has gotten bigger, and this pool of money gets larger. The unrealized gain value of my herd gets larger. And up until this day, up until recently, and to this day, I will start leveraging against this money too. This money here, it was just I knew it was there, but it wasn't something that I was, actively looking to, assess and leverage against. But as of now, I will be leveraging against this money. Because if I don't leverage against this money, if I don't take the loan against this money, then I would have $50,000 sitting here, right? And let's say I took this money and I put it over here, and that grew this. The next month it'd be 70,000, right? And then a month after that it'd be 90,000, right? And then and then another month after that it'd be whatever. It'd be let's say because the herd's getting 12,000, 120,000. And now it's like I'm sitting there not leveraged against $120,000 worth of my equity portfolio, right? Why would I do that, right? I might as well, I need to leverage against this money. Up until recently, I have, I knew that this money was here, but I didn't really fiddle fart around with it. I didn't really bother with it. but I will start having to assess. And this is also, me leveraging against this money. I would have to take a look at the quality of my animals. I would have to take a look at the average weight of my animals. I would have to get a reasonable idea for the amount of money that I would make at the market with them at their current at their evaluation weight, and then I would have to leverage against the equitable evaluation of the herd. So this takes a little bit more finesse. This takes a little bit more finesse. Leveraging against the leveraging against the money that I make. This was very easy, and when the numbers were very small, when I had 10 animals worth of money in the deal, it was whatever. It was maybe 10 animals worth of money, and me putting on about 2 pounds a day on an animal. I was I was putting on 2 pounds a day, and I only had 10 animals worth of money in the deal. Nowadays I have, now we're talking about 100 animals worth of money, and me putting on 3 pounds a day, maybe even a little bit more than 3 pounds a day. Okay. The numbers are now different. And this is one of the big things that I'm going to have to change up. I will start having to leverage against this money, because if I don't leverage against this money, it'll just be, hundreds of thousands of dollars just sitting here within a couple of months. All right. And there's no reason for me to sit around with, a 50% leverage on my balance sheet. And so this is the big change that's happening. I will start leveraging against this pool of money. I will start leveraging against this pool of money. And but that's how the money circulates around. That money's the money in my check. All the bills that are upside down are loans that the bank has given me. The bills that are face up are my money in the deal. And when I take a loan from the bank, I purchase equitable assets, commodity type cattle at their commodity price. That's what I do with the money. I don't take the money and YOLO it. Okay, I don't take the money and go and whatever with it. If I legitimately feel like I want to give myself some money, I'll take some money out of there. All right, and that right there, that's $40,000 still in my hand. And this remember that this should be about the same as this. This should honestly be a $5 bill up here, but I took $10,000 out of this pile. I took a $1 bill out of this pile, because of whatever. Maybe I had 2 animals die. I bought 2 loads of grain, and I bought 2 tons, 3 tons of fertilizer, and I bought 2 gallons of herbicide, and I filled up my truck 5 times. So that's why I took $10,000 out of there. Okay, but this should be more or less a $5 bill as well. It should be about 48,000, but I only put 40,000 up there. All right, and so that's where I took the money out. And if I legitimately, but here's the thing. But as time continues, 1 month after this, this money will be going over here. All right, and this money will have grown by another 20 grand. And realistically, my income will continue to go upwards, right? This is the thing. It's like the amount of money that I am making is actually going up on an exponential scale. It's going up very quickly. The amount of money that I'm making is going up very rapidly. I've effectively hit a point with the money where it's like, the thing is going exponential. All right. The money's going exponential. And this is a very, easy way to look at it. And, this is a very easy way to make sense of it. So this money, the check in my hand, I invest it. And so this money now goes into here. Okay. This is the loan that I took against this money. So I took a loan for that. This is my money in the deal. And now I have this money over here. And this money has gone up by this much. All right, so I take a look at it and I say, well, I got 70,000 here and I only have a loan for 40 grand, right? Let me take a loan for at least another, let's say 10,000. All right, this still keeps me at, whatever, somewhere around 20%. Like, and in this situation, so now I'm investing. Now I don't have $180,000 in the deal. How much money do I have? Let's count it up. This is actually a very easy way to look at it, because $1 is 10 grand, okay? So I have 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 38. So I went from this, which is 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. I went from 27 to 38. So now I'm not investing $270,000. I am investing $380,000. All right. So, effectively now I'm, every month that goes by, and this is also what I mean by I would have to use about $110,000 in 1 month to keep my balance sheet at an 80% leverage. And at $380,000, and I actually didn't run the numbers for this, but at $380,000, at $380,000, if I went from $110,000 at $1,300 a calf, at $1,400 a calf, $110,000 would be like 80 cattle. So I would be increasing the size of my herd by 80 cattle a month. And if I increase the size of my herd by 80 cattle, I mean that right out the bat puts me, I would be having to liquidate and this is also what I mean by the numbers are going absolutely ballistic, and I will very, very, very soon end up with a fourth and a fifth pool of money. I can already anticipate it. The numbers are going absolutely ballistic. And so, I would at 80 more animals, that would be like, and at 7 animals a month, that would be like me liquidating an extra 12 animals a month. And so, at 12 animals, at about a 26.50 an animal, we're effectively talking about like another like 30 grand. So I wouldn't be making this pool of money would not be 4. It would be 7. So now I wouldn't be making, this is after just 1 month. And this is what it would look like the next month. So it wouldn't be 4 up there anymore. It would be 7. It'd be 70 grand. I'd be making 70 grand just 1 month. I made a whatever, and then it'd go up to 70 grand. All right. But realistically, I will not be able to invest this much capital at the same time. Or I would have to, I understand that this is happening, and I am taking a look at it, and I'm figuring out what I need to get done. Realistically, this is going to happen like within, I'll need to figure out how to put, like 70, and then I would have to leverage against that. So that'd be $140,000. I need to figure out how there's a very real possibility that within 7 or 8 months, I will have to invest about $140,000 a month into my business, and it will be compounding upwards to keep myself at an 80% leverage. All right. And, at the end of the day, if I decided that I just wanted to take my money, I just wanted to get my money out of the deal, then I could still walk away with this much money. All right. So 10, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So that'd be 280,000. I could walk away with 280 grand. All right. Am I going to, sit on 280 grand? No, I'm not. Okay. Why would I sit on 280 grand? Why would I do that? Why would I sit on 280 grand, right? I would rather focus myself on making $70,000 a month, right? Why would I sit around and think about sitting on 280 grand? It's not going to do anything. I would rather focus myself on making the 70 grand. All right. And so this is a very realistic demonstration of what I got going on. All right. This is a very realistic demonstration of what I got going on. So we started off with that first set of money. And then now we're taking a look at it as if I in 1 month, one more month, I sold I sold a whatever, right? I sold 18 head of cattle. I sold 18 head of cattle, and I made that money, and I deducted 8,000, and so that's how much money I was left over with. I took a loan against it. I had an 80% leverage against the money that I had in the deal right off the bat. I had that leverage already, and I took a loan against the money that I made. When I took a loan again, when I took this money and I reinvested that money back into my business, that increased the size of my herd, which increased the amount of money that I have in the deal. That money is the $2, right? The $2 represents 20 grand. So I leverage against that 20 grand. I just put 10 grand, whatever, right? As long as it's about 20%, 10 grand, 15 grand, whatever, it could be another one. It doesn't matter. Something like this, right? Let's fold this dollar bill in half. So, something like this, right? So, I invested that, and this right here would keep my balance sheet at about an 80% leverage, right? You can add it up, and it would be about 80% leveraged. The bills that are face up are my money, and the bills that are face down are the bank's money. And if you add it up and you total it all together, it's about 80% leverage. This money right here, these two pools of money are leveraged against, and they are, effectively a commodity type assets that the reason that I leveraged against it and the reason that I invested this money was to purchase myself assets, because this money was not going to do anything unless I invested it. And the whole idea of making money with assets is to effectively just, is to take the money and then make the money, make money. And when I used this money to make money, I ended up with that as a check in my hand, 70 grand. All right. And so that's 70 grand, more or less, I would leverage against it. Just say that this is 7 or whatever. I would leverage against it, and then I would put that money over here, right? And then it would rinse and repeat, right? And then, maybe, you take these, and then, you take this, and then you put a 10 in there, right? And then now instead of 70 grand, maybe it's 100, maybe it's 100 grand, right? And so rinse and repeat. And the money, effectively, if I do not leverage, and at this point I would have to invest $200,000 in a month. And effectively at this point, I will probably end up with a fourth and a fifth pool of money. And I will, because it's going to turn into a doozy. All right, it's going to turn into a major pain. Investing $110,000 a month, investing $200,000 a month, it's going to take some serious elbow grease, and it's going to take some serious effort. Okay, I don't think I don't know how do I invest $200,000 a month. Maybe I can. It's gonna be rough. Okay, I probably have to hire myself a veterinarian, and everything. Okay, I'll bring in some people to do some work. I'll just pay him whatever, $50 an hour, to do some things that if I need to get it done, I'll probably take all my animals to get worked on by a veterinarian. And whatever it may be, but it's gonna take some major effort to invest $150,000-$200,000 a month. All right, but the numbers are going absolutely ballistic. The numbers are going vertical very quickly, and I will probably end up with a fourth and a fifth pool of money very soon. I would anticipate within 7 months.